Hey there, this is Natalie, and after weeks of covering the various theories and leaks about Attack on Titan chapter 138, it's now out, and I can talk in more detail about the chapter we actually got. If you're new to my channel, I will be covering theories for chapter 139, as well as any interesting potential leaks in future videos, so please subscribe for that ongoing Attack on Titan ending content. But now on with the analysis of this brand new second to last chapter. So the chapter begins with the rumbling ostensibly ending, and the Alliance seeming optimistic that they've at least managed to stop the complete doom of the world outside Paradis. Jean, Connie, Levi, Pieck, Gabi and Mikasa are riding on Falco, and as they question whether Eren is dead, Mikasa experiences a headache, and we're reminded of Eren telling her the headaches are something Ackermans are known to experience, and talking about her status as basically a slave with no free will, who he says he's always hated. Mikasa wants to reject that memory, and as much as this chapter does show that there was always love between Eren and Mikasa, I personally don't think, as some people do, that when he said he'd always hated her, he was just lying to try to encourage her to distance herself from him. I think instead, he was meaning that, as Eren, who values freedom above all, it genuinely does disgust him to think that someone would let their free will be overridden. He wants Mikasa to reject that instinct and do what she wants to, which she does in the end of this chapter by killing him, not out of hatred or malice, but because it's the choice she thinks is the right one. To be the version of herself that Eren loves and can be proud of, Mikasa has to be able to do the one thing her Ackerman instincts would stop her from doing, and kill the one she wants to protect, to fight for the future she thinks is right. I think he told her he hated her, knowing that this day would come, and that she'd need to choose freedom over slavery. But before Mikasa's headaches get worse, Falco lands, and there are some long-awaited reunions. Falco stays connected to his Titan, seemingly just in case, and while Falco and Pieck are reunited with their families, which would be nice for them if it wasn't for what happens next, Gabi tells Karina that Reiner is still fighting, before we see Armin in his Titan form rise up with the banged up but still living Reiner. They notice that the spiny centipede, or life organism, has actually survived the blast, and then their day gets even better as behind them there's another Titan transformation explosion, and they have to accept that Eren too is still alive and able to fight. This is a new Titan form for Eren that's about the same size as the Colossal Titan, but I'm assuming it's a smaller Founding Titan form. Gabi says that they need to keep Eren away from the centipede because the rumbling might start again, and Pieck and Falco say goodbye once again to their families because there's still something left to do. Eren and Armin stare each other down in Titan form, and Mikasa is distraught, wondering why things have to end this way, as Reiner notices the spine releasing some kind of smoke. Now, a possibility I haven't really seen anyone discussing much here is that what if this spine came from Zeke's body? That would explain why Eren was able to survive, perhaps with the spine we'd already seen being connected to him still, and why this spine is doing things we normally associate with Zeke's spinal fluid, being able to turn people into Titans just through contact with a tiny bit of it. When Zeke died, under normal circumstances, his Titan Shifter ability would go to a random newborn Eldian baby. But with the rumbling going on, and a lot of people, including non-Paradisian Eldians, dying, maybe there isn't anywhere for it to go right now, and the result is it manifesting like this in the location where Zeke was killed. It's kind of a crack theory, but let me know what you think. Still, the situation it causes brings a tragic end to the long-awaited reunion between Annie and her dad, who hadn't been on the scene for the rest of the reunions, where he was agreeing basically to a peaceful collaboration between the Eldians and Marleyans for the remainder of the fight. As the Alliance sees the smoke and note that it doesn't smell like a dead Titan, sparking unpleasant moments I spent trying to imagine what a dead Titan smells like, Connie is reminded with horror of what happened to his village, where his mother and everybody else were titanized by gas using Zeke's spinal fluids. Levi knows what's about to happen here too, and orders Mikasa and Pieck to get on Falco with him, because where Ackermans and Titan Shifters can't be titanized, They need to evacuate. Pieck and Falco are shown looking back with horror as the rest of them wait for the inevitable. Now, this whole situation with everybody here getting titanized, and yeah, I am going to keep using that as a verb, is I think one of the most interesting things in the chapter in terms of what might happen next. If this is really how all of these characters are going to die, then that's a hard-hitting move by Isayama, especially with Connie, considering he will have met essentially the same fate as his village and his mother. It's suitably brutal for Attack on Titan, but then with this being so close to the end, I could see this actually being reversed somehow by Ymir in the end, perhaps removing Titan abilities from the world altogether, and the survivors of this reverting to normal. Alternatively, I could see the situation persisting with Connie and Jean dying here, where they got that little bit of dialogue about their graduation that really had the sad final words feel to it. But Gabi will eat a Titan shifter, probably Reiner, and survive, because Isayama seems to just really like saving Gabi. I could see that in a way as being kind of a sad thing, after Reiner and Falco worked so hard to prevent her inheriting the Armoured Titan so she'd avoid the curse, but honestly, any situation where a whole lot of non-Gabi people die and Gabi survives is one I'm not all that keen on. Still, the presumably thousands of now titanized people all head in the direction of the spiny thing, and Reiner, in his bashed up state, is there to stand against them, but now the focus is back to Eren and Armin. Armin has a cool line here, telling Eren he must really love this hell, and then saying he'll follow him to the end, and then they fight. I really feel like with all of the focus on the Mikasa stuff in this chapter, which is understandable given the impact of it, a lot of people are overlooking that really defeating Eren here does come down to a combined effort between Armin, Mikasa and Levi. If any one of them wasn't willing for this to end this way, then it wouldn't have. It makes sense that Mikasa is shown to have the biggest role here, not because this whole grand enterprise has come down to a love story between Mikasa and Eren, and Armin's importance has been reduced, but because Mikasa is the last one of the characters closest to Eren to come to terms with having to end him, and to be in a position where she's ready to make this decision. This point was reached for Armin already, but on his own this fight could well end in a stalemate or his defeat, and in the meantime the rumbling would go on. Levi and Falco are needed to pull this off logistically, but without either Armin or Mikasa's commitment, reaching and killing Eren wouldn't be possible. I feel like this is a better ending for the trio than it originally looked like from the summary leaks, where Armin wasn't mentioned very much. Still, before we get into the final showdown, Pieck decides she can't evacuate on Falco as planned and jumps down to try to help Reiner. Annie is there too, and it's really hard to say who, if any of them, are going to survive this situation, to be honest. But now Mikasa's headaches worsen, as Levi tells her in no uncertain terms that they need to kill Eren. She thinks about wanting to go back home, and this is where we see the panel that matches with the end of the dream Eren had right back in chapter 1. I made an ending theory video saying that I didn't think it was as necessary as other people did for this see you later Eren moment to come up in the ending, but it's still satisfying to see that dream actually meaning something. But what it means is really still open to interpretation. Not what it means in terms of what it tells Mikasa in this moment, that's pretty self-explanatory. The future that she might have wanted with Eren would not have been one she would have been able to accept, and she can make peace with the idea that all of this had to happen this way, and she can make the choice that she needs to. But what it means in terms of what's actually happening here. I know fans of the time loop type theories think that this is basically an alternative future that Eren had just lived through and was looping back from in chapter 1, and he's now showing his memories of it to Mikasa. But personally, I'm not a fan of the idea that Eren is stealing Subaru's niche here, and this is just what happened before the last time he returned by death. Instead, I don't think this version of things ever happened, but is a possible future that Eren saw, which was changed by the actions he took. Just as there must have been an alternative possible future where Grisha didn't kill the Rice family, which was what would have happened had Eren not intervened while visiting Grisha's memories with Zeke, I think there were memories of other futures that the Attack Titan was able to show Eren, and this forgotten dream, which perhaps returned to him and made sense to him again around the time he asked Mikasa what he was to her, was one future he decided to change. Still, that's just what I think, and it could still be happy hour at the Time Loop Saloon next chapter. I just feel like it would be a weird thing to introduce as late as this. It's not like we can go back to the start and replay the entire plot of Attack on Titan with different choices being made in just the next chapter, so if there are time loops, barring an anticlimactic ending where everything in the entire story is undone, this has to be the final loop, meaning none of the stuff in the climax is going to get undone by that being the case. And if it is the final one, then telling us that Eren has actually been through this whole series of events a number of times before but with worse results wouldn't really add anything to the story. I think it's more impactful to think that he only ever had one shot at all of this, but through the Attack Titan's memories of the future, he chose which parts of the future to accept and reject, based on what he wanted, because he refused to be a slave to destiny. Here he's showing Mikasa a future she thought she wanted, to make her see why he wouldn't let it be the one that happened, and to free her from wishing for the impossible ideal her instinct for loyalty and her love for him gave her, that she could have protected him and they could have been happy. What Eren says to her here really explains a lot of things. If he hadn't had the determination to commit to the rumbling, he couldn't have saved Paradis, and Historia's family line would have been bred like livestock. To save Paradis and his people, he had to do this. That was his decision. But Mikasa and the others, they were always free to save others by stopping him. He invited them to fight him and never took that freedom away from them. And now he accepts his death when Mikasa uses her freedom and makes that decision. Now, I know a lot of people have theories about Eren actually surviving this, but I really think this is Isayama committing to this ending here. This stuff just fits too well thematically with the story to be thrown away as a fake out before another twist. If it were maybe 5 chapters earlier, maybe even 1 chapter earlier, I could buy it, but I don't think he would use up this much of the penultimate chapter, tying in so much foreshadowing and character stuff that had been built up through the whole series, just to have Mikasa's choice here not really matter. I also think, even though he loves to surprise us, he is being sincere with that little splash of text at the end saying goodbye to Eren. He created him, so he's probably even more attached to him than we are, and those little author goodbyes are usually not used for trolling. But I think the things we'll be needing to think about the most when it comes to chapter 139 are going to be centred around just what's going on with Ymir here. I mean, it could just be that she's even creepier than we previously thought and she's just enjoying watching this, but probably it's going to be some hint at what she's going to be motivated to do in the end. We still have no resolution to the Curse of Ymir and the whole Titan situation in general, plus now there are more rampaging Titans than ever, and there's no way Reiner's going to be able to end the spine thing if even the Armin nuke didn't work. It seems like for all of this to get wrapped up in one chapter, Ymir is going to have to be the one to somehow give an ending to all of this. We also have seen nothing of Historia and her baby, who featured in just about every incorrect theory for this chapter, so an Ymir reborn scenario is looking more likely than ever. The theme of slavery is key with Ymir, and it coming up here with Mikasa, who then acted with free will in the end, is potentially part of why seeing Mikasa kissing Eren's dead head is making Ymir show this happiness. Nobody ever showed Ymir any kind of love or kindness, but here she's seeing that Mikasa was able to love Eren, in spite of him being the all-powerful founding Titan, in spite of him causing all of this destruction, and in spite of him being someone she needed to kill with her own hands to uphold what she thought was right. She's seeing two things that perhaps Ymir had always wanted to see: someone freeing themselves, and someone truly loving someone, or something like her. Perhaps this, combined with whatever she felt during the scene in chapter 137 in the Paths, will be what's needed to have Ymir resolve to do whatever hopefully positive thing she's going to do in the end. Still, Other people do think it's more of a knowing smile because she's about to execute some monumental plot twist, and I think that could well be possible too. I just don't think it involves time loops or Eren still being alive. And that's really all I have to say about the chapter from an analysis point of view, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and please once again consider subscribing for coverage of chapter 139 and some wider analysis of the Attack on Titan story and its characters as we reach the end. Plus also content about other anime, manga and light novels, including ReZero if you want to hear me talk about time loops in a more positive way. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon.